I'm Elizabeth at A Literary Princess. If you are new here, welcome. I'm a 6-year PhD candidate in English literature with a focus on Victorian women novelists. And as you might expect, I love to read. Today I have my February wrap-up for you. So I read 8 books in the month of February and I DNF'd 1. I was participating in Feb Regency, hosted by Christy Lewis from Dostoevsky in Space, Tristan from Tristan and the Classics, Stephanie from Miss Richards Reads, and Tiffany from Beautiful Minutia. I ultimately only read 1 book for Feb Regency, but that still counts. The one that I DNF'd was also for it, but also kind of for my 18th century novel project. We will talk about all of that. And then at the end, I have a mystery book that appeared in my mail that I don't know where it came from, but I'm very excited to have it. So stay tuned for that. Let's jump in. First up was one that I had started in January, and this was the collected poems of Sylvia Plath. I am, as many of you know, in my second Plath era. The first one I had was in high school. I am now reading all things Sylvia Plath, and this was one of my 50 books to read in 2025. I also plan to read her journals. I feel like every time I read Plath's poetry, I like it more and more. So I had read Ariel 2 years ago, and I think I gave it 3 stars. And then I read the restored Ariel, which puts back the poems that she had originally had in the order she'd originally had them for the originally published collection. Ted Hughes changed it. And then I gave it 4 stars. So now I've read this, all of her poetry. Well, not all, because there are notably a few of her early ones missing. But all of her mature poetry, and this was 5 stars. It's not that I liked all of the poems. A lot of the early ones I actually felt pretty meh about. But seeing her development over the course of the years was so fascinating. And just, I loved it. And I mean, God, her later poems are just truly spectacular. So yeah, this was 5 stars. I'm so glad I read it. It's going to be one that I come back to and read pieces of probably constantly, especially currently in my second Plath era. But yeah, 5 stars. Loved it. Next up is one that I got out of my public library. This is How to Sell a Haunted House by Grady Hendrix. This is following a woman named Louise who goes home after the death of her parents and is trying to clean out the house. She has problems with her brother, whose name I'm not remembering. She also had problems with her mother, who made puppets and collected dolls. So I'm sure you can see where that's going, considering this is How to Sell a Haunted House and there are creepy dolls all around. This was great fun. I love Grady Hendrix's books. They are just so enjoyable. This was not as good as my best friend's Exorcism, which was like my true, like, wow from Hendrix. But this was my second one by him, although I've read like half of A Southern Book Club's Guide to Slaying Vampires, and it was on audiobook and I got out of the mood for an audiobook and had to return it. It was a whole thing. I plan to go back to that. But yeah, How to Sell a Haunted House was a great lot of fun and, you know, just a quick, enjoyable horror novel. Very campy. That's what I love about Grady Hendrix. Like, there's scary parts, like genuinely creepy parts of his books, but they're so campy and funny at the same time. So, highly recommend if you're looking for a fun horror read. So, 4 stars. We then come to my read for Feb Regency. This is Zofloya by Charlotte Dacre, published in 1806. What the heck was this? What is this? I don't know what to do with this. Like, what? This was insane. Okay, this is a Gothic novel. It is historical fiction taking place in, I think, Italy in like the Renaissance era. It probably says somewhere, but I'm too lazy to look that up. 15th century. So 1400s. So medieval. Okay. So we are mostly following Victoria de Loredani, who's a young noblewoman. How do I even describe this book? So Victoria, unlike your typical Regency protagonist, heroine, is a horrible person. Like, this girl is deranged. And she gets worse and worse as the book goes on. She has never been told no by her parents. And then when her mother runs away with a lover, and her father is then killed by the lover, and her brother runs away to who knows where, she is just pulled deeper and deeper into vice and evilness. And that gets pushed more and more on her by Zofloya the Moor, who is the servant of a nobleman that she really wants, even though she's married to somebody else at that point. That's all I'm gonna say, because this is just, the ending is, like I said, I don't really know what to do with this. I was like, what? What? Okay. Apparently it's somewhat based on The Monk by Matthew Lewis. I don't really know how though, because I have not read The Monk, but this was truly strange. I can't say that I liked it, but what I did enjoy was the fact that we're following like an anti-heroine. And that was just fascinating to see like a character that's the main character just be this truly horrible person, because you don't see that very often, especially with Regency women. So I did enjoy that aspect. I ultimately gave this 3 stars. I don't think I would reread it, but I'm glad that I read it. Next up is one of my most anticipated new releases of the year. This is Emily Wilde's Compendium of Lost Tales by Heather Fawcett. This is the 3rd book in the Emily Wilde series, so I won't say too much because I don't want to spoil the other 2 books if you haven't read them. Emily is a professor at Cambridge. She studies fairies, and she is joined by her academic rival / love interest, Wendell Bambleby, as they explore the many things of the fairy realms. And like I said, that's all I'm gonna say because I don't want to spoil the first 2 books if you haven't read them. I highly recommend this series. It is so much fun. It's a very cozy vibe, but the fairies are creepy, as they should be. So I appreciate that. It's very academic. There's like footnotes, which I always have a lot of fun with. And I just really love Emily as a character and her relationship with Wendell, because they are just constantly bickering at each other, and it's great. I give this 5 stars, as I have given both of the other books in the series. And I don't know if there's going to be a 4th one, or if it's just going to be a trilogy. I'm trying to remember if it left off. I don't think it left off on a cliffhanger, so it could end here, or she could do another one. I don't know. We'll see what happens. Next up is one that I did not expect to read, but a friend of mine started a book club at the kombucha bar where he works. So I obviously was like, okay, I'll read this and go and support him. And this is one of the most popular books of 2024. This is James by Percival Everett. This is a retelling of Mark Twain's Adventures of Huckleberry Finn, told from the point of view of Jim the slave, who here is James. This was really enjoyable. I liked it a lot. I listened to the audiobook narrated by, I believe, Dominic Hoffman, and he was amazing. Like, he did such a good job. One of the big things in this book is code switching. So when James is just with other fellow slaves, he talks perfectly normal English, like even quite educated English. But when he is around white people, he switches into dialect that white people kind of expect from a slave, like uneducated, incorrect grammar, and his personality becomes completely different. And this is his way of protecting himself, and it's all of their ways of protecting themselves, all of the slaves in this book. Yeah, this was really enjoyable. It was fun to see, like, Huck Finn from the other side. There were some interesting changes made. Some that I thought worked and some that I was like, I don't know about that. But ultimately, very interesting, very enjoyable. I did have a little bit of problems with the way women are represented. There's not many female characters, but the two that we kind of do meet for a little while are both sexually assaulted, and that is used more as a thing to move along James's story than like an event happening to these women. So I didn't really love that, but ultimately it was a really good book. We had a fantastic discussion about it at the book club, and I'm really glad that I read it. I gave it 4 stars. Another one that I got through my local library, this was for the Robinson read-along, hosted by Kelly from Books I'm Not Reading. This is Home by Marilyn Robinson. It is the second book in the Gilead series, and it is set concurrently with the first book, Gilead, but instead of following John Ames, we are following the daughter of Ames's friend, Boughton. So this is Glory. And we are seeing events from her perspective. She is caring for her elderly, very unwell father who is dying. And while she is doing this, her kind of prodigal brother, Jack, comes home after 20 years of no contact. This is really a story about family relationships, of course, especially about siblings. So the first book was very much about fathers and sons, and we do have that here, but what really stuck out to me was the sibling relationship between Glory and Jack. He is older than her, so when she was growing up, they weren't close, but she kind of, like, very much admired him because, you know, that's her big brother. Got kind of emotional about it, not gonna lie. This book, instead of being in first person like Gilead, is in third person. It's a close third person on Glory, but I did find the switch to third person a little jarring because with Gilead, the narration was so strong, the narrative voice, and you felt so close to this character. And the third person made me feel much more distant from the characters. I had wanted to be more in Glory's head and kind of seeing things, not just as they're happening to her, but more like, what is her mind doing as this is going on? But I did ultimately really like it, and I gave it 4 stars. I'm looking forward to picking up Lila in April. And another one from the local library. This is After the Forest by Kel Woods. This is a retelling of Hansel and Gretel. It is what happens after. We are following Greta, who is our Gretel character. And after pushing the witch into the oven and freeing her brother, Greta grabbed the witch's book of spells. And she has been using this book of spells to bake gingerbread that is kind of addictive. And townspeople are very wary of her, but they really like her gingerbread. Her brother Hans is a gambler and has gambled away all their money. And then people start showing up dead in the forest. There are a lot of other fairy tale elements other than Hansel and Gretel here. We have Snow White and Rose Red. We have Snow White and the Seven Dwarves. No dwarves, but the elements of Snow White, especially with the apple and whatnot, are there. Wasn't there one more and I'm not remembering it? Maybe there wasn't one more. I don't know. I really loved this. This was so, first of all, fun, but also just really well done. It is historical fantasy, so we are set in a historical period, but the magic is just woven in so well, especially because people of that period believed in magic, and there's talk about burning witches. Greta is like very wary of that and tries to be very careful of using this spell book. I don't know. This was just so good. I want to do a Fairy Tale Friday about it, but I have not done one of those in a while, mainly because it's a lot of research, and when I get home at the end of the day from my job doing research for a dissertation, I don't really want to do more research in my free time. So maybe once this PhD is over, I will do a Fairy Tale Friday on this. I do intend to get my own copy because it's one that I definitely want to reread, and I highly, highly recommend it. I gave it 5 stars. Last book of the month that I finished was for my 18th century novel project. This is Love and Excess by Eliza Haywood. I am going to have an entire video on this, so I am not going to say much. But what? If I didn't know what to do with Zofloya, I even more so don't know what to do with this. It's very theatrical, which Haywood was an actress and she also wrote plays, so I can see why. I did not really like it. It is a series of love shapes, starting with a triangle and then getting more complicated, all centered around the Count Delmont, who I hated and thought he was a creep and would throw him out the window happily. And was like, you don't deserve a happy ending, my guy. And people should stop liking you because you suck. So yeah, stay tuned for the video if you want to hear more about this and why I didn't really like it that much. I gave it 2.5 stars because I didn't hate it. And there were aspects that I found really interesting, but I didn't like it either. So 2.5 stars. And that's the book that I didn't finish. And this is The Social Life of Books, Reading Together in the 18th Century Home by Abigail Williams. I liked this. I read the introduction and the first chapter, and I thought that it was very good. However, I don't want to read academic books when I get home from my academic job. So I was kind of burnt out from that. I also have it on ebook through my university library, which means I have to read it on the computer. And I just didn't want to. I was like, I want to sit on the couch with a book or my Kindle. I don't want to read on the computer. So I ultimately decided I just would not finish this right now. I might come back to it. I don't know. We'll see what happens and how I'm feeling as the rest of the year goes on. So those are all of the books that I read or partially read for February. I did, however, want to briefly talk about this random mystery book that showed up at my house. So, because it was a surprise. So my husband comes home and he's carrying a package. I'm like, oh, are those the thing you ordered? Because he had ordered something. He goes, no, this is for you. And he hands it to me. He's like, it's a book. I'm like, I didn't order anything. But, you know, there's my name and my address right there. I'm like, okay. Did I order something and forget about it? No, I did not order anything. So I'm like, well, let's open it up and see what it is. Maybe there's a note inside letting me know what's going on. And I opened it to find Jane Austen's Bookshelf, A Rare Book Collector's Quest to Find the Women Writers Who Shaped a Legend by Rebecca Romney. This is a brand new release. It just came out this month. And I have no idea who gave it to me. The return address was the publisher's address. So I'm like, did it come from the publisher? But I didn't get an email that they were sending me a book. There's no note. I didn't get a comment from anyone telling me they were ordering me a book. And also, they somehow had my address, whoever they were. So I am at a complete loss. I am super excited because I put this book on my TBR very recently when I saw it was going to be coming out because this sounds amazing. So the fact that a free copy is just here, randomly, at my house, for me, I'm like, okay. I wish I knew who had sent it because I do want to say thank you. So whoever you are, if you're watching this, thank you. I'm super excited. It's going to go perfectly with my 18th century novel project because a lot of these books are going to be 18th century. I mean, on the cover, I can already see the female Quixote, which I am reading for this project. Pretty sure this is a portrait of Frances Burney, who I am also reading. I can't tell what the other ones are, but I actually haven't even looked at the table of contents in this yet. Oh God, Jane Austen, Frances Burney, Anne Radcliffe, Charlotte Lennox, Hannah More, Charlotte Smith, Elizabeth Inchbald, Hester Lynch Thrale Piozzi, I don't know her, Mariah Edgeworth. Ugh. Okay, so let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4. 4 of those are ones I am reading for my 18th century novel project. 2 others are ones I have read from and want to read more from. And then 2 are unknown to me, but I am super excited to discover them. I'm really, like, ooh, this is gonna be really fun. But yeah, mystery book showed up. Okay. I said to my husband, I was like, I swear to God, I did not order anything. But yeah, whoever you are, thank you so much. I'm super excited for this. So that is my February wrap up. Let me know down in the comments below. Have you read any of these? What did you think? What did you read for February? If you enjoyed this video, please don't forget to give it a thumbs up and subscribe to see more of my bookish content. It has been great chatting with you. I will see you soon. Bye.